Hi, my name is Jen. Welcome to Pilates in a Flash. This is your 30-minute Pilates workout focused on abs, glutes, and thighs. Today for our prop, you're going to need a pillow, and you're also going to need hand weights. So I've got 2 cans of beans up from the coconut milk, so they'll be a little bit heavier than the cans of coconut milk that I've been using in the last videos. If you have hand weights at home, that's great. You can use those. They can be 1 pound, 2 pound, or 3 pound weights. Dumbbell or the round balls are fine. Okay, today we're going to start standing up. So I'm going to bring my pillow with me. We're going to start standing up on the mat. I'm going to just move my mat back just a smidge so that my head stays in the shot. Okay, we're going to bring our arms up and down. Arms reach up. Nice big deep breath in, and let the arms come down. We're gonna bring our arms to the side in semicircles from our hips to our ears. Breathing in, reaching up. Good. We're gonna grab the pillow. We're gonna hold it out in front of us, and we're gonna just move our rib cage to the right, keeping our knees and our hips still. Breathing in, moving our rib cage to the left. So just trying to find some mobility in our thoracic spine, the rib cage of our body, and filling out our rib cage as we breathe. So taking nice deep breaths in and out. Back to center. I'm going to bring the pillow up and I'm going to lean all the way over to the left, breathing in. Thinking nice tall spine. So I'm not collapsing to bend. I'm thinking about lifting up and over. And then I'm going to go to the right. Breathe in, shoulders down. Lifting up and over. One more time each side. Breathe in. Fill out those ribs. Lean over. Breathe in. Shoulders stay down. Lean over. Good. We're going to bring the pillow back in front of us and we're going to do a couple of squats. So we're going to send the pillow up to about shoulder height as we send our hips back in space. Doing a squat here. So we're thinking about moving our bum back, bending from the hip, knees, and ankles. Arms come forward, but the arm bones stay in the socket. So watch that you're not reaching forward. Okay. There's a little curve in the low back as I send my hips back behind me. So I'm maintaining this tiny little curve in my low back. I'm not tucking my tailbone under. I'm keeping that little curve there. To protect that little curve, I pull my low belly in just a little bit and I push through my heels to come back up. Okay, we're going to go for 5. Breathe in. 4. Okay, pushing through the heels to come back up. 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Okay, we're going to hold down here, pillow outstretched, soft bend in the elbows, and we're just going to do a little pulse up and down. Okay, so coming halfway down and up. I can stay hinged over pretty far, okay, as long as my tummy is not on my thighs. Sending my tailbone back behind me, creating this really nice hip flexion. So the thigh bone is sinking deeper into the hip sockets. Pushing through the heels, okay, and pushing through my feet. So my toes aren't lifted off the mat or off the ground. And doing a little pulse here. So this pulse is fairly slow, it's not quick. We're going to pick up the pace and do a quicker pulse for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on up. Excellent. Breathe in and out. We're going to come on down to the floor, okay? So today we're actually going to finish with a standing leg series. So we're not going to do too many hips and thighs on the ground. We're going to concentrate on our core, our abdominals, obliques, okay? And most of it's going to be done on our back. We've been doing a lot of stuff in flexion. And flexion means more of the ab curl, okay? So I'm going to try to take the ab curl out, but still work those abdominals in this neutral spine position. So I'm just going to make sure my weights are near my hands, but I'm not going to use them right now, okay? And all I'm going to do to start is take a nice big deep breath in, land my ribs down on the mat, land the pelvis on the mat in a neutral position. So that means my hip bones and my pubic bone are somewhat flush with each other, okay? So they're somewhat level. For me, I need to send my tailbone down towards the mat, which puts a little bit of an arc in my low ribs. So my low ribs kind of puff off the mat there. So with my pelvis level, I need to work and engage my abdominals to bring my rib cage back down onto the mat. So already I've started to engage my abdominals here, okay? So I'm gonna level my pelvis. My hands are gonna come up towards the ceiling, and I'm just gonna start by opening my arms and closing my arms, okay? So just opening the arms and closing the arms, feeling for movement in our shoulder blades. Shoulder blades kind of move towards our spine, and then as the arms open, and then the shoulder blades kind of wrap around our rib cage as the fingertips touch. And you don't have to open too far. You just open a little bit and close, keeping the hands in your peripheral vision. I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to send my arms overhead a little and then back down towards my hips, okay? So arms go overhead, ribs stay down, shoulders stay away from our ears. So I want you to think, is my spine remaining in a neutral position as I send my arms overhead? And it becomes kind of fairly tricky, right? Because as I send my arms overhead, naturally, my spine wants to arc up. So we want to avoid any movement in our spine by starting to engage our abdominals. So start to pull the belly button down towards the spine, low belly holds that pelvis nice and still, and our shoulders stay away from our ears. So it's a simple movement, but it's just can be as challenging for some people who can't keep their spine in a neutral position, okay? So it starts to kind of turn on our core muscles, which is what we want. We're gonna take the weights and we're gonna add the weights, okay? So I'm just gonna scooch down on my mat. Weights come up, level the pelvis, keep that spine in a neutral position. So the head's down, ribs are down. I'm gonna take a nice big deep breath in, okay? And I'm gonna bring my arms up towards the ceiling and sink my arm bones into the mat. So I'm just moving my arms like railroad tracks up towards the ceiling and then down. For 3, back to that shoulder blade movement, right? 2, okay? 1 more. Now I'm gonna sink my arm bones down towards the mat, level my pelvis, pull my low belly down, and send my arms overhead. So I'm sending my arms overhead as far as I can keep my ribs on the mat and my pelvis in a neutral position. If you feel like it arcs or lifts, you don't go as far. Same with our shoulder joint. If it's too far overhead, you start to feel a little twinge in your shoulder. Don't go as far. So you have to keep your shoulders down away from your ears as we start to send these weights overhead. Okay, I want you to breathe in and out. Excellent. We're going to add our hip fold. So that means we're going to send our arms overhead and bring our right leg up into tabletop and then switch. We're going to do this nice and slow. Left leg comes up into tabletop, arms go overhead, ribs stay down on the mat, low belly pulls down towards the back of the pelvis so that when you lift and lower that leg, your pelvis doesn't swing with you, right? The tailbone doesn't lift off the mat, and the little curve in the low back doesn't get smushed in any way, right? So we keep that pelvis nice and still by starting to engage our low belly. Our low belly pulls down towards the back of our pelvis, okay? And we keep moving the thigh bone into that 90-degree angle without shifting our pelvis. So arms are moving, ribs are down, pelvis is level. Good. For 1 more right here. Excellent. We're going to pause. We're going to bring one leg up into tabletop. We're going to go back to that opening and closing. So one leg into tabletop, open and close those arms. Good. Shoulders away from the ears. I want you to think ribs down, pelvis level. So when I first came into this position, I could feel my tailbone lift off the mat. So I'm going to kind of anchor my tailbone down and then pull those low ribs down. As my hands come back to center, I'm going to exhale and I'm going to squeeze my abdominals towards the midline a little bit extra, okay? Now I'm going to add the leg. So I'm going to open my arms, tap my toe to the ground, lift it back up, close my arms. Open my arms, tap my toe, lift it back up, close my arms, okay? So my arms are open, my toe taps, my pelvis doesn't move. I'm gonna do 2 more. Good. I'm gonna do 1 more. Open, tap, close, lift back up. I'm gonna switch legs. So my left leg is up, my right foot is down, and I'm just gonna go right into it. I'm gonna tap, I'm gonna open my arms, tap my toe, lift it back up into tabletop, close my arms. So watch the shoulders don't creep up towards the ears, okay? Watch the ribs don't start to pop off the mat. Level the pelvis out if it starts to tip. Keep pulling that belly button down towards the mat, but make sure it's a gradual pull. So you're not pulling so hard that you feel your low back gripping in any way or compressing, okay? So you want to think low belly down, belly button towards the spine in a gentle and gradual contraction. Good, we're gonna go for 2 more. Excellent, we're gonna go for 1 more. Good, we're gonna put the cans down just for a second. Both legs come into tabletop. We're gonna pause, okay? So I'm gonna flex my feet and point my toes. Flex my feet, point my toes. Flex, point, flex, point, flex, point. So find some good ankle action here, okay? With my legs in tabletop, kind of just waiting for me to move. I'm gonna make sure my knees are over my hips, which they weren't. And I'm gonna put my tailbone down towards the mat and then start to work through those abdominals again to pull my low ribs down towards the mat. So my lower ribs are actually quite low, right? They end about right here, and I want to make sure that they are down on the mat. The only way they kind of come down for me is by engaging through my abdominals and my obliques, right? If not, they start to pop. So watch that they're not popping up. Good. So we're going to stop our feet. We're going to point our toes. We're going to send one toe down towards the ground and then back up. The other toe down towards the ground, then back up. If you can't reach the floor comfortably, you don't have to go this far. So you can stop halfway. I want you to be mindful of what's happening on the upper portion of your body just as much as that's happening on the bottom. So those ribs, that breastbone doesn't arc up towards the ceiling. I breathe in and I fill out the ribs between my shoulder blades and I hold them down on the mat. And then my pelvis does not move as I send my leg away from me, okay? So there's no tipping in my hips. My pubic bone stays exactly where it is and the little curve in my low back doesn't change. We're gonna extend the legs now, okay? So arms are down, still breathing in nice and deep. I'm starting to puff up towards the ceiling, so I'm gonna think about pulling that belly button down towards the mat. So notice if your abs make kind of like a dome shape. Pull them down towards your spine just a little bit so they don't puff all the way up there. Good, we're gonna do 1 more. Excellent. We're gonna go for doubles, but we're gonna make them small. So we're gonna go a little bit away with both legs, then back to center. This is the toe tap, little bit away. If you can make it all the way down towards the mat, great, good for you. If you can't, what I mean is if you can make it all the way towards the mat and hold a neutral position, good for you. If you can't, that's fine. I'm only going a couple centimeters and then back, okay? I'm gonna do the double leg extension, but mine is gonna be on an angle up towards the ceiling, making it a little bit easier, okay? And then bend the knees. Breathe in, okay? Extend the knees, low belly nice and strong, then bend the knees. Good, 1 more time. Breathe in, extend, then bend. Excellent. Feet down. Tiny break here. Legs go wide. I'm just going to windshield wiper my knees left and right. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to fire up my glutes. I'm going to lay on my right side. I'm only going to do 1 quick set. My leg is long, so I'm on my right side, but my left leg's on top, right? I'm going to move my can out of the way. I'm going to lift and lower that top leg. So I'm going to fix everything as I lift, okay? So all the little kind of details of a leg lift. So that bottom oblique that's touching the mat needs to be off the mat, okay? You want to think that if there was a wall behind you, your head, your ribs, and your bum would be touching that wall. So you have a little curve in your low back. I'm lifting and lowering the top leg, and I'm not going super high, so I'm not aiming to get up there. One day I might be able to, but I'm only lifting as high as I can keep my hips stacked and still. So there's no accordion action. I'm not collapsing the bottom waist to lift my leg up, right? There's none of this rocking action. I want you to think really still pelvis and really strong midline, okay, of the body. Obliques are on to hold my pelvis still as I lift and lower that thigh bone. My knee and my toe are facing directly in front of me. I'm gonna flex my foot, okay? I'm gonna pull the top of my foot towards my shin. Good. We're only gonna do a couple more here, and you should start to feel the work in the side bum hip area. I'm gonna do a little bit slower, okay? So I enjoy doing quick reps, but really slow reps are just as excruciating. So we're gonna go for 5, really slow and lift, and then lower on down. 4, super slow, slow-mo. Good. 3, lift, pull the belly in. Hip doesn't move. You want to go higher, you better just lift that thigh bone up, not the hip. Good. 2. I'm going silent. 1, because it burns. Good. That's it for this side. Excellent. Back on our back. So we have some glute engagement, which is what I want. Okay. We're going to find our weights. Here we go. So arms are up in the air. Okay. We're going to take both legs into tabletop if you're comfortable here. If you can't, you just take one leg into tabletop. That's an option for you. No problem. Or you keep both legs down. A good little trick to find more engagement, and I'm going to use it now, is the pillow. So I'm going to use the pillow between my inner thighs. It doesn't have to be a big bulky pillow. Make sure it's fairly small so that your thigh bones are lined up with your hips and your thigh bones aren't spread open. Okay? So they're fairly narrow. I'm going to bring both legs up into tabletop. You can use the pillow at any point, or you don't have to, but I enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy is a good term. So I'm going to squeeze my thigh bones towards that pillow. I'm going to anchor my tailbone, pull my ribs down towards the mat, and then I'm just going to redo my arms again. So I'm going to open those arms and close those arms. I'm going to open the arms just a little so they stay in my peripheral vision. When I open my arms, I'm not arcing my rib cage, okay? So my rib cage stays nailed down to this mat. I'm just feeling for movement in my shoulder blades, and I'm working my core to keep it in that neutral position, okay? We're going to do 2 more. We're going to do 1 more. Open, squeeze the pillow, feel upper inner thighs to low belly. Good. Pause. Hang out here, arms come up. Now we send them overhead slow, okay? Ribs are down. Slowly bring the hands down towards your hips or the weights, and then bring them back overhead. As you bring them back overhead, you do it even slower so that you feel for those ribs, okay? And I start to shake when I do this. Great. Low belly on, squeeze the pillow, pull the low belly down. Now pause with the weights overhead. Exhale, come back down. 1 more. Actually, let's do 2 more. Weights go overhead. Pause. Get the ribs down. Pull the belly button down towards the spine. Can you go a little further? Maybe. 1 more, okay? Nice and slow as we bring the weights overhead. Shoulders away from the ears. Watch the ribs. And back. Excellent. Okie dokie. We're going to swing around and do the other leg. So we're coming down on our left side. Top leg is straight, bottom leg is bent. Okay, so stack the hips. Hips are stacked, and that little oblique is off the mat. We're going to lift and lower that top leg. My eyes are forward. I'm not looking and hinging with my neck down towards my chest. I'm going to think about bringing my ears back over my shoulders. Breathing in and out. Good. So I'm trying to feel for side bum. This leg, both legs for me. If you watched any of my videos in the past, I need to send my leg back 1 millimeter, just a little bit. It almost feels like my leg is back behind me, but it's not. It's more lined up with my hip, right? So it's not in front where I can feel my hip flexor working or my quad working hard to lift, okay? I need to feel for side bum and hip, and if I don't feel it, then I know I need to send my leg back just a little bit. That's a trick for me. It may work for you, it may not. Okay, so watch also that breastbone. Mine's pushed out. I need to push it back in space just a little. Okie dokie. So we're going to do 5 really slow, right? So we're going to slowly lift the leg, feeling for if my pelvis, hips move even the slightest. And it's not going to move. I'm holding you there. Then lower it on down. Okay, lift the leg up. Pull the low belly in. Lift, 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 and lower. Good. 3 more. Lift. The knee and the toes stay facing forward. So I'm going to flex my foot and turn my knee just a little bit so that it's a little more forward and less open, okay? So my knee is not pointed up towards the ceiling in the slightest. Good. We're going to do 2 more. Breathe in. Lift. 1 more. Breathe in. Lift. Good. Okay. Should be enough to feel that bum cheek working. Okay, side bum and hip. Coming back onto our back. Okay. We're just going to do a tiny bit of mobility here so you can grab the pillow. Shoulders away from the ears. You're going to rock your rib cage over to the left and then to the right. Nice and slow and controlled. Shoulders are away from the ears. The hips and knees don't move. I want you to think when you go one direction. So when we go to the left, I'm going to pause and I'm going to push down through my right sit bone and I'm going to go a little more left, then back to center. Now I'm going to go to the right and pause, push down through my left sit bone and go a little more right. So I'm really just honestly firing up those obliques, which help us move our rib cage, rotate our rib cage. Right? So I'm not using my low back or my hips to rotate. I'm asking these big ginormous muscles, my obliques, internal, external obliques, to help me move my rib cage, which is their job, one of their jobs, okay? And I'm going to make sure it happens by anchoring through my pelvis. So I go left and I push into my right sit bone, then I go a little more to the left. Then I go right and I push into my left sit bone and I go a little more right. Good. That's enough of that. Okay. So I'm going to take the pillow, put it between my thighs again. Grab the weights. Shoulders away from the ears. Legs back up into tabletop. Level the pelvis. So as soon as I bring my legs into tabletop, my natural reaction is to kind of tip the pelvis up towards the ceiling. Try to make sure that if that happens, you can fix it. Push the tailbone just a little bit towards the mat for what's comfortable for you. So I say anchor your tailbone, but if anchoring your tailbone a large amount starts to compress your low back, then you don't do it, right? So you need to move your pelvis into a more neutral position to what is comfortable to you and your low back, okay? So never do anything that compresses that low back. So that would mean that you're moving that pelvis too far from your range of motion. So for me, I got to anchor my pelvis just a little bit, pull the ribs down, right? Those low ribs come down, so now my abdominals are on, okay? My obliques are on. And from here, I'm going to squeeze the pillow just a tiny bit. Now I'm going to go one arm overhead. So one arm overhead, and then back to center, okay? Opposite arm overhead, back to center. One arm overhead, and then the opposite, okay? I am feeling for that spine in neutral and that pelvis in a neutral position. Good. I'm going to send both arms overhead and pause, and I'm going to slowly do a double toe tap, but mine is going to be modified. I'm not going the whole way towards the ground. Pause. Pull the ribs down, pull the belly button down, come back to center. Whew, shaking like a leaf. So both arms go overhead. Then I send my legs down towards as if I was going to tap both toes. Squeeze the pillow, pull the belly button down, keep the ribs on the mat, then come back to center. One more, then we do double extension. So both arms go overhead. Okay, come back to center. Shoulders stay away from the ears. Arms go overhead, pause, shoulders down, ribs down, belly button down. Now send the legs, hips don't move, and then come back to center. Tiny break, okay? So legs are going to come back up into tabletop. We're going to do double extension, arms up. So my arms, again, go overhead just a little bit. Doesn't have to be towards the ground. Now I extend both legs and then bring them back in. Arms come back to center. So arms go overhead, pause, breathe in, keep the ribs down, extend both legs, and then come back to center, okay? Two more, breathe in, Fill up the ribs, pull the belly button towards the spine, extend. Let's extend them at the same time. So arms and legs extend, okay? Pause with everything out, and then back to center. Excellent, okay. Good, I'm gonna take my arms and I'm just gonna pull them up over my head as if I'm taking off a t-shirt, just to loosen off my shoulder blades, because they had to do lots of stability work with the cans in the air, okay? And then I'm going to move them in the opposite direction. Because we did lots of legs in tabletop, I'm going to push into my feet. I'm going to lift my pelvis up towards the ceiling and then lower on down. It kind of relaxes those hip flexors a little bit and asks more from the back chain of the leg, right? So hamstrings, glutes, bring that pelvis into extension instead of flexion, right? Okay, so lifting and lowering. We got 3, breathe in, push into feet, lift up, find hamstrings, 2, 1. Excellent. Okay, you're gonna roll over onto your side. You're gonna slowly come onto your knees. We're gonna bring our right arm up towards the ceiling and do a small side bend. Breathe in and down. Left arm comes up and over. Breathe in and out. Slowly coming up onto our feet, finishing our hips and thighs. So I'm gonna move back so I'm in the shot, but you can stay obviously on your full mat. My right leg comes forward, my left leg goes back. I'm gonna weight my right foot and I'm gonna shift the weight forward so that now I'm really high up on the tippy toes of the left foot. And that left foot is really light, okay? So most of my weight and balance is in that front foot, my right foot. I'm gonna push down into that front foot and I'm gonna hinge forward a little bit. So I'm gonna move my upper body forward. What I'm feeling for is the outer portion of my heel and my big toe strong into the mat. And I'm going to think about untucking my tailbone just a bit. So I have a little curve in my low back, okay? And that the bum cheek on the right side is kind of pushed out back behind me. From here, I'm just going to lunge down and push into my foot to come back up. Lunge down, push into my foot to come back up. Lunge down, push into foot to come back up, excuse me. So what you're feeling for is hamstring, glute to come back up. Quad is definitely working, don't get me wrong. If you're not quite feeling that side bum action, that hamstring action, look down and make sure that your knee is over your ankle, lined up with your big toe, okay? And still make sure that most of the weight is in that front foot. I was sneaky, my left foot started to take more weight. So that back foot stays super light. We're gonna go for 3. Push down into the foot to come up. Keep that knee aligned. 2. Untuck the tailbone on that supporting right leg. 1. Good, okay, tiny little break. We're gonna go left side. Right foot back, left foot forward. Hip bones face forward. So notice if you're kind of twisted, okay? Make sure the hip bone and the pubic bone are facing forward. I'm going to put most of my weight into this left foot. Right foot, right toe is really light. I'm going to untuck my tailbone on my left side, but that doesn't alter my hips, right? So I don't twist my pelvis to untuck. I just think about bringing my tailbone up, back behind me. I'm going to hinge my body forward, okay? And then I'm going to start to lower myself down and push into that left foot to come back up. You'll notice that the knee in that left leg doesn't fully straighten. I don't want it to fully straighten. I'm doing like a little mini bend, okay? A little extension, tiny little bend, tiny little extension. So you're going to think about the outside portion of that heel on the left foot. Push into the outer heel. There we go. Now I feel more hip and bum action. That big toe is strong as well. Okay, you're going to do 3 more. Stay hinged. Back foot is light, so light you can lift it up. 2. 1 more. Excellent. Shaking out those legs. All right. Good job today. So we're going to do a couple of roll downs, okay? So arms come up. And then arms come down. You nod your chin to your chest, curl down, and hang out. Take a deep breath in. Tuck the tailbone and stack the spine to slowly come up. One more time. Eyes up. Breathe in. Nod the chin to the chest. Curl down. Send the hips back in space. Soften the knees. Before you come up, pull the belly towards the spine. Tuck the tailbone and curl to come up. Great. We're going to add on to that lunge series. Maybe next week, hopefully. I hope you felt some bum, some glutes, some abs, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.